Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here to give you guys my Fear the Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 7, the mid-season finale of Season 2. And this episode is called Shiva, and it aired, at least in the United States, on May 22nd, 2016. Now, the reason I pretty much have been putting off doing this video just because I was busy doing other things and was too lazy to do the video once it came around, but I'm here to do it now because I actually watched this episode 2 days ago now, but I'm not going to watch it again because I've watched enough of it to kind of know. I pretty much watched the whole thing and I pretty much remembered what happened, so why watch it again? But let's talk about this episode. How this is going to work, though, is since this is a mid-season finale, I'll actually break down the episode, and then I'll give my thoughts on it, and then I'll talk about what I thought of Season 2 thus far. So, essentially, usually what I do is when there's multiple storylines, I tend to break them down all at once, but considering the fact, though, that it's kind of tougher to do that this time around because all the separate storylines would kind of lead into each other, and you kind of have to talk about it all together in order of sequence, because then the video will get really confusing. I'm not really going to do that either, though, because I'm just going to kind of just start off by reviewing it. So I'm just going to get right into it. The episode starts off with Daniel having a nightmare. It takes us back to a flashback of when he was younger in El Salvador, or at least that's what I think it was, because that's when Ophelia said she was from. And he starts to have nightmares about the times when he was in the war, and then he has like a gunshot go off, and then he wakes up, and Ophelia gets worried about him, so he takes Ophelia and starts running. We weren't really supposed to know what to think. I thought he was going to take her where the infected were and show her that, but that's not what happened either. What ends up happening is, what ends up happening pretty much is we find out this is a dream sequence, and at first we didn't really know it, but once Ophelia starts ripping off her eye, we pretty much knew that this was a dream. At first, I kind of was questioning it myself. I thought she ended up taking the poison communion, because she started bleeding out of her eye like a lot of people, like the people that took it did before. But then when she started ripping her eye off and stuff, you pretty much knew that this was a dream. So then he actually wakes up from the real gunshot from when Strand shot Thomas, and Celia is pissed off about this. She's upset because she murdered his son, and she talks about how she's not good enough for him anymore, and how she pretty much went back on his words and decided not to go out with him. So she throws the whole group out of the house, but Strand first says he wants to bury him and pay respect to Thomas. So she says that they have till sundown to leave. So Madison is suspicious about, Madison is obviously nervous about this, so she ends up telling the kids to get all the stuff that they can, so that way they can survive and go back on the boat. And what happens, though, is Nick and Celia, let me make sure I have the name right, because I might, Celia, end up getting more closer with each other. Celia doesn't see the infected as dead or anything like that. She sees them as people and as one of her own. And Nick kind of starts to see it the same way. He ended up going out and retrieving Lewis, who had been dead, and I turned into a walker. And she was actually happy about this, and we see Nick was all covered in the infected's guts. So, Cecilia wants Nick to stay since he sees the infected the same way that she does. And, Nick wants her family to be able to stay as well. And Celia says that all your family does is destroy everything that's good in the world, and you don't want to have to make a choice between us and between this place and your family. So, what happens is she ends up trying to make a choice, and Nick says, "What if I can convince them that the infected to see the infected the way we do, that they're not really dead, um, they're just people." So then she agrees to let them stay, but not Strand. Um, and then what happens is, as this is happening, Nick then eventually later on talks to Maggie, not Maggie, I don't know why I keep saying Maggie, but Madison about this conversation, and Madison starts to worry about Nick. Nick even had this conversation where he's untouchable from the infected. When I go out there, I can't be touched by them. And you can kind of see that this zombie apocalypse is starting to mess with Nick's mind. It's actually making him crazy. Not to the level of Chris, but definitely towards the level of Nick. So what happens is Madison goes to talk to Celia about this, because Madison also doesn't want to leave Strand behind. Doesn't want, since Strand's the reason that they got to Mexico and stuff. She feels like she owes Strand, and she tries to talk to Strand about this. And I did like the scene too, where Daniel was telling Strand not to worry, not to bury him because this is all infected land, and it's kind of like his times of war kind of was starting to catch up to him, and he's like worried about his daughter, and he starts going off on going crazy and beating people up, and eventually everybody just beats him down and stuff like that. I quite like that. I thought that was nice. And then what happens is later on, Daniel gets taken and gets kidnapped, and Celia wants him to admit all of his sins. And she even made her food that she had given Nick in the last episode. I forget what it was because I just forget what it was. And Daniel doesn't want to eat it because he thinks she's poisoned it. And then Celia's kind of like, that if Daniel will admit his sins, then you're going to be here for a long time. And I kind of liked Celia's character too, where she's like evil, but trying to, where you can sense that she's a little bit evil, but trying to help the infected. So what happens is Daniel has visions of his ex-wife Griselda. We actually get to see her this time, and I did like this scene a lot, where she's trying to convince Daniel to put an end to your sins, put an end to the people that you've killed. And I did like the scene where we got to see the flashback of him as a kid killing somebody. And she talked about how we thought that was his Daniel's first victim, but his real first victim was himself, because he ended up killing the humanity that he had left within himself. So I liked that a lot. And eventually what happens is one of Cecilia's guards comes up, and Daniel acts like he's all weak, about to eat, but he was just faking it. He ends up attacking him, and he ends up burning down the foam, or the compound with the infected inside of it, and he ends up seeing Celia, at least a version of him, and he sees all the infected of people that he's killed in his life, and the whole thing, the whole compound ends up burning down. But before this had happened, Madison ends up talking to Celia about this, and Celia doesn't want Madison to force Nick to make a choice whether she wants to choose between the compound or his family. So what ends up happening is she wants to see if she could start to see the infected the way her and Nick do. So she takes Madison to the wine cellar where all the infected are, but Madison tricks her. She locks Celia in the gate where the infected are. So essentially, from what we got about this, we're supposed to assume that Celia either got eaten alive or, since the whole compound burnt down, got burnt down with the compound. Now, you guys may be asking, where was Travis and Chris doing all of this? Well, Travis went to go look for Chris. Obviously, Chris took off the last episode, so Travis went to look for him. Alicia tried to tell him what Chris tried to do the last episode, but Travis ain't believing it. And Chris ends up escaping, and Travis's feet start to hurt, and because I guess he's been out in the heat, his feet start to kind of burn. And he goes into this guy's house who doesn't speak any English, and the guy tries to get him to leave, and he's acting very suspicious, and we see like there's a shadowy figure in the next room, and then we find out that the guy actually can speak English, and he says, "If you don't leave, it'll hurt my son." So Travis acts like he's gonna leave, and he barges into the room and sees that Chris was about to hold his son at gunpoint. So what happens is Travis tries to talk some sense into Chris, but Chris just isn't having any sense. He just thinks he's sick. So Travis knocks the gun out of his hand, and Chris ends up running off, and Travis and Chris end up getting into a fight. And Travis feels bad, saying that I should have helped you. I should have been there more for you. So then what happens is later on, Nick comes out to look for him because Madison didn't want to leave until she knew Travis was found. And Travis pretty much says that him and Chris are just going to be by themselves because Chris essentially can't be around anybody else right now because of how messed up he is. So he tells Nick to go tell Madison that you never saw me. And then later on, after the compound's burned down and stuff, Nick meets up with Madison. And Strand, who was about to leave, but then when the compound burnt down, he ended up coming back. Strand, Alicia, and Madison get ready to get into a truck together, but Nick doesn't want to go because he realizes that Celia was right, that they do destroy everything good. So he ends up leaving with the infected, and Madison tries to get Nick to come back, but he just doesn't want to. And that was how the episode ended. Pretty much. I pretty much covered everything that there was to cover. And I like this episode a lot. The one thing I didn't like about this episode was they just randomly did the storyline with Daniel in this episode where they should have probably built to it within a few more episodes. And I didn't really hate the fact they killed off Daniel because I guess it makes sense considering the fact that they have to kill somebody off. They want to do something big, but I don't know if Daniel was the right person. So that was pretty much the end of episode 8. I liked this episode. I thought it was really good. I don't think it was actually I thought it was I don't think it was a great episode, but I thought it was really good. I think what hurts it is it just didn't really feel like a mid-season finale. And also while I liked some of the stuff that was going on, the Daniel stuff took up enough of it, and it was just really random that all of a sudden that was a storyline. But I liked the Travis-Chris storyline. I liked the Madison, where she locked Celia into the room and got to see Celia kind of really start to break. I like seeing Nick start to become crazy. And it is kind of nice to see what the zombie apocalypse is doing to these people. So I like that. If I had to rate this episode, I'll give it a B. It was really good. So I'm going to give it just a solid B. And that's pretty much the end of this review. As for what I think of the season so far, I think it's been a little bit underwhelming considering the fact that it feels like it is getting better, but it took it started off very slow. And I usually don't mind when seasons of TV shows start slow because it builds to bigger stuff. But it felt like the first episode was very anticlimactic, and then you had the second one, which you really didn't even need to watch when you look at it. Then you had the third one was good, but then I feel like the episodes haven't necessarily been bad, but it hadn't had that one episode that made it really damn good up until these last couple of episodes. And then you had that episode where they did the thing with Connor and stuff, and they blew it off in one episode. I didn't really like that too much, but it's been a fine series so far. I really haven't hated it. But I had to rate, just based off the first episode up to the mid-season finale, what I think of season 2. I'll say it's good. I'll give it a B-. I think based off these last 2 episodes it's about to, this season might really start to catch fire and stuff like that, so we'll have to wait and see. But that's pretty much my review of this episode of Fear the Walking Dead. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please make sure you guys like, comment, and share this video so people will watch it. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel for more content and click on the bell, so that way every time I upload a video, you guys will get the notifications for it. And make sure you guys do the same thing for my CM Brothers YouTube channel. And that's pretty much it, guys. Talk to you later.